Hey guys, Mike here. So definitely an interesting week ahead with a lot of economic data. Got some key earnings to watch out for. One of them being a semiconductor, and one of them being a very famous retailer for sure. So we'll keep an eye on that and talk about that as well. We also have some data come out Friday. Shocker, hotter than expected, right? So rate cuts, don't know about that one. You keep getting this economic data that comes in hotter than expected, and who knows if you can believe it or not. I know. And then of course you're starting to see the usual thing happen, right? Where it's like, this is overheated, we'll pull some money from here. This has definitely been beaten down. These areas over here, we'll start to kind of just stuff it underneath the mattress, right? In these areas right here. So you'll see it. And one of the areas kind of surprises me a little bit. But we'll get into all that and some of the charts you guys had asked me about. So I'm going to do those as well. But when you look at Friday, we had the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI come in hotter than expected. Also, Services PMI came in hotter than expected. And as long as it's above that 50 line, then you're not in contraction, right? So when you look at basically trending upwards at this point in time. So it's staying where it needs to go. You look at 2019 right there. And so kind of that same area down into the normal area. And so, of course, stocks were all over the place. And you can see how we ended right here with the big boys, Qs and the SPY, red, IWM making a comeback. But more importantly, what do you see? RSP, QQEW, right? So we get some movement into other stocks besides the big boys. Also, you see biotech, small caps, communications, healthcare, cybersecurity. So other areas getting some love besides just semiconductors. They were actually the worst of the day, if I'm not mistaken. Got real estate, jets, so your airliners, cruise, those kind of things. And you'll see that in some of these charts we're going to talk about. But when you look at the big boys, just a couple of them here, you got Nvidia. Obviously, that's what the market's all about. That month-to-date anchor VWAP, that's where it bounced from. So kind of held up, starting to come down. If it breaks that, it'll come down to very, very slim support for sure, as you can see. But we'll see, if they keep taking profit on this one or not. Nice move down so far. That shaded area is where you're going to find really real first support, if you're going to see that at all. I'm going to change this 21 EMA right here, which I'm adding on here. It's where you can actually see it. And a lot of these semiconductors, a lot of stocks love to bounce off 21 EMA. Nvidia is so far ahead of things right now and overstretched. It hadn't touched it in quite a while. But when you look back over, and of course that's where that 21 EMA would be as well with that support. Normally you can see it kind of rides it up, right? And you get a few bounces here or there. Then when it breaks below it, retest fail. Same thing over this big rise up. It just rode the 21 EMA up. And so again, just something to pay attention to if we get down there or not. A lot of stocks you're seeing this in right now. And again, it hadn't touched it since May. And so about due for one, right? Now you look at Tesla, fell out of this channel. So we're going to get rid of that. That will be resistance when it comes back up, but we're going to get rid of that one. And you can see, as usual, man, these the year to date, and then that one below, which was that 140 low sitting on that trend line right there, it's still just squeezing into this thing. I'm sure people were just stunned, but when you look right here, there's that fair value gap. We talked about it, come down, mitigated it. That's where it pulled liquidity from. Again, if it breaks this anchor VWAP right here, comes down, it could pull more liquidity out there if it wants to. But when you just look out on this, I mean, look at that. Going on since April now, it's been sitting in this area just getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. So again, for June, it's still at 4%. June is one of its best months. June is not over yet. I know a lot of people making bets maybe next week, even though it's not supposed to be good for the market. Money still goes someplace, so we'll see. Is this one squeezing right here? Is it finally going to break down? And either way it goes, it'll just be a big move either way, right? A lot of people are betting it's going to be up. It has been setting some higher lows there, as you can see, the last couple weeks in June. Hard to believe it actually is up in June, even though we're still just sitting in this range, what feels like forever on Tesla. And so, again, 187 is going to be resistance, up to around 194 right there will be resistance. I know people making $200 bets, like it's going to get to 200, and we'll see. We'll see what happens on that right there. Maybe not in June, maybe it is July if it's a hot month. Now, when you look over here at Amazon, this one right here finished up really good in the last 30 minutes, but it did make it above what used to be the old all-time high right there. But that was like the last 30 minutes of the day right there. They just powered this one up. I am going to do, and you can see anytime we broke this 3 times, this will be the 3rd time, we haven't been able to hold it, right? We sold down immediately the next day on the 1st time, the 2nd time, so we'll see if Monday is going to be the same thing. We sell down. But one thing I'm going to do on this one right here is do some research. I'm definitely going to remember the video on this one about Amazon Prime Day, how it performed before and how it performs after. Is it kind of like an Apple day? You know, Apple usually will run up into when it does one of those big events and then sell off after. Tesla does the same thing. So I want to see with Amazon what happens on this one. I know it's coming up in the next like 3 weeks, I believe Amazon Prime Day is. So I'll do some research on that. Disney, and one thing you'll notice is like travel stocks, right? Like Disney, again, even though the big tech goes red, Disney's been green the last 2 or 3 days right here. It came into that area, which was of interest right there. It got above the 21 EMA right here. And so we'll see if this one finally starts to get some love after being beaten down for 3 straight months here. And so if it does, I mean, if it can get up there, break 108 right there, then finally you start feeling that gap. So, you know, kind of surprising, but again, this is one of those ones that's been hammered down. All right, you go over here to Airbnb, same thing. You know, it's green the last few days, been rounding out that bottom, gets above its 21 EMA right there. If it can break above this level of 149.70, well, guess what? Now all of a sudden you got a gap to fill. Okay, and remember that there's no resistance there, right? So it can move through at least 50% of that gap pretty fast. So again, look for that right there around 157, 158. We'll fill that gap. And so, you know, we got Disney, you got Airbnb, and then when you come over, and again, I'm going to draw a trend line down here because I don't believe this move, unless you get above that right there, which is right around where it would fill that gap and break above that, you can get a bigger move because it's basically just been moving up, right? Whether you want to call it a channel, rising wedge, whatever you want to call this. That's what it's been doing, but you know, it hadn't done hardly anything in the last 30 days. Now look at jets. You know, this is where all your big airliners are in, right? So you can see that area where it bounced from was resistance, has been support in the last 4 times. It did bounce. And so this one right here, if it can get above a 21, all of a sudden you start seeing, you know, because we are in summertime, so people are still traveling and stuff like that. And so if they can get above that, that means all the airliners, the major ones, are starting to move and stuff. So that's another one that has to do with travel. And this is just more one of those areas that either haven't been doing anything or it's been beat down over the last like 2 to 3 months. And I mean, this one, of course, I would never buy this ETF, but you know, each their own. I'm just showing it because it represents most of the airliners. Now, look at DJT, transportation, right? This is another one that's been hammered down, but it came into this area of interest right here. It's been support, resistance, got some bounces from it, and it's been bouncing the last 3 days, even with the SPY and Qs down, which lets you know money's kind of pushing into this, okay? And again, this one's fooled us before, right? It got hammered down, but if it starts to break above this trend line, then the trend line above is basically going to be the target you're going to be going for. That's what happened here. It's like, oh, we're going into recession. This is it. Transportation looks like garbage. Boom. Explosive move up when money started rotating into it. Hood, another one here. I put this shaded area here for you. Last time we talked about it, I said this is going to be what? A major fair value gap, a weekly fair value gap, right? So if it hits it, look, see if we pull liquidity. It hit it. What happened? We sold back down. Okay, so, and it started selling down before the market started selling down. These are daily candles. And again, we're on that 21 EMA. We're testing that level right there. If that breaks, obviously we move it down 1 notch right here to around 2057. That's going to be the next level. We'll try to actually get into it. Might go a little lower to fill that fair value gap right there. But again, this one right here, we'll see if it finally gets to bounce back up. But that weekly fair value gap, you know, that's liquidity for us, liquidity draw, and you'll just see it. And it's a good thing to put these on your chart, so at least you know when you might run into resistance and stuff like that and get a pullback. Kind of tells you that. Dell, somebody could have asked me about this one. You know, this is the fight of, is it about hardware or software, right? So Dell's had some good run-ups and obviously a good sell down right there in May on that last earnings, but ran back up. And so we've had 3 touches on this trend line. You got that area, which used to be resistance, now support. And so let's see if this one keeps wedging down for a bigger explosive move up, maybe in July, right? Let's see if it's the real deal or is this just one of those fake out type of stocks. I hadn't done a ton of research on this one, but again, you're above your 21 EMA on this one. You know, you got some support. You kind of see what's happening here. Is it going to be another SMCI where it just wedges and then has this explosive move up because of the AI pump once it gets back on track? And when we look over here at Celsius, so I tell people there's no reason to be in a rush on you know, stocks like this. You know, because like I said, it's all about the momentum. That's what the stock's all about. It had the big green candle, and then we had the red candles. Now it's kind of doing nothing. And so when you look at it, what you're looking for, hopefully, not saying it has to do it every single time, but when that RSI gets above that 50 and you get a stochastic up there around 80, explosive fireworks type stuff starts to happen, okay, if this is a real move. And so that's what you got to keep in mind with this one. I know a lot of people selling calls. Some people are buying calls. You know, good risk reward, to be honest with you, when you look at it. I think it's a good risk reward. But again, that stochastic needs to get above that 50 or you're going to get a rollover and it's going to be a fake out. So kind of what happened with Shop back in the day. Remember when I told you guys about that one? So, you know, moving over, speaking of Shop, this one right here got successful retest so far. It's holding, I think it's holding on by a thread, because when you look at stochastic right there, obviously it's rolling over right now. It needs to start turning back up, get the momentum going. We haven't fallen below 50 on the RSI, but you know, normal when you do, you know, it usually means bears are going to start being in control again. So again, this one needs to go. If it does, obviously I'd still say that 68 to 70 area is going to be a beast to get through. That's where you're going to have the 200 right there. You're going to have resistance. It's going to basically retrace in that gap about 50%. And so, you know, we'll see if we can get there or not. Ours is going to be a fake out, and we're going to be heading back down towards that trend line. Palantir, last one here, you can see this one came back down. Got absolutely whacked down. Filled this daily fair value gap right here. Bounced on the trend line. So that's good confluence right there. We'll see if this can hold. If it doesn't hold, watch out for down here for it to pull more liquidity. Okay, but it needs to stay above that trend line. So this is a good spot to actually be bouncing. Okay, if we actually pull the fib, which I did, I'm not going to pull them right now, and you came down that fair value gap, you'd be well into a discount window for a bounce, of course, but then you're coming right back up into another fair value gap, plus an inverse fair value gap, and when we pull up the fibs and stuff, you can see that area lines up pretty well into a very big discount window, depending on where you want to take it. I mean, if you want to come from this move up right here, right now we're in a nice discount window right here for a bounce, which aligns with the trend line, which aligns with the fair value gap. Or if you want to go all the way down to the bottom right here with the 50 Fibonacci level, and then you can see that other fair value gap lines up with 0.7, 0.79. So just keep that in mind for Palantir. It's all about the AI pump, right? Now, when it comes to earnings next week, we do got a few. We got to watch Carnival, right? It's all about travel, FedEx, transportation, paychecks, General Mills, Micron, been on big moves. That's going to be a semiconductor, BlackBerry, Levi, okay? Then you'll have Nike. We'll see if this one right here ever starts to get a lot of love again like it used to. I still refuse to buy a pair of Nikes because they're too expensive, but I know a lot of people love them. Now, when you look at economic data, we will have a lot coming out next week. Monday, nothing going on, super quiet. Then on Tuesday, we're going to have CB Consumer Confidence. You have Richmond Manufacturing Index. A bunch of FOM seekers next week. Wednesday, home sales, crude oil inventories. That will affect oil if you saw my Saturday video. Thursday, final GDP, unemployment claims, durable goods, final GDP price index quarter over quarter, pending home sales month over month. And then on Friday, you're going to end up with core PCE price index month over month, and also personal income and personal spending. So it'll be a fun, eventful week. Don't be surprised if Monday's quiet, because there is no big news coming out on Monday. Again, you have two FOMC speakers, so that's it. So we'll hear all about rate cuts and all this stuff in the hot market and you know, inflation, blah, 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 and all that fun stuff. So we'll see. Again, historically, 7 of the last 10 years, this time has been flat or red, right? I don't mean it's crashing, nothing's burning, nothing like that. All right, you just got a lot of overheated stocks finally consolidating, people taking profits, all that good stuff. So we'll see. And Nvidia did get bought up midday, right? Started pushing it back up and then sold back off. So we'll see if people are buying the dips like crazy and stuff like that on the semiconductors and the large tech. Again, I'll do research on Amazon, figure out that one and stuff. So hope you guys got some out of it. Hit that like and subscribe button. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.